when I worked with the unseen realm, my higher self and my guides, at the beginning I couldn't hear them, but I had a little signal with them. If I go into meditation, ask a yes or no question, they'd give me a red light or green light. So anytime I wanted to know something or wanted confirmation of something, I would just ask and I'd get a red light, green light. And I've worked with the unseen realm for years. For instance, one time I was out, before I moved to California, I was out there visiting, and there was a man there named George. He was from New York, had something to do with radio. We had a very intense, great conversation for about 15, 20 minutes, and then he had to leave. And that was it. But a year later, I got a phone call from this man who said, Stephanie, I don't know if you're going to remember me. And just from that, I knew who he was. I don't ever remember people's names, so how I pulled that off, I'm not sure. But he said, I said, are you George from New York with the radio that I met in California? He said, yes. Anyway, he said, I was told to invite you to a gathering of people talking about their experiences with dolphins. And I said, oh, well, you know, I love dolphins. And in fact, I have an amazingly huge connection to dolphins. I'm originally from star Sirius, and dolphins are one of the root races there, and I have a lot of dolphin magic that I use in my life today. And so I'm really connected to the dolphins. But I didn't have something I could really share about dolphins. So I said, I'm not sure what I could share with people. He said, I'm just telling you, I was told to invite you. So I said, okay, well, let me think about it. I'm going to meditate on it. So I did. I went into meditation. I asked, am I supposed to go to this thing at green light? I thought, really? I'm supposed to go to this green light? And I said, well, there's really a reason for me to be there, green lights. I said, okay, I'm going to go. But it was a long time ago. I was raising 3 kids alone. I didn't have a lot of money. And I said, but you know, the TV's not working really well for the kids. The money it's going to cost me to fly there, I could buy a new TV for the kids. Are we sure I'm supposed to go there? Green light. So I did. I went. And when I got to the airport, I called home. And my son answered the phone. I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. And he said, guess what, Mom? As soon as you pulled out of the driveway, the TV got fixed. That TV stayed for 10 years until I got rid of it. So thank you, Unseen. They've always worked with me that way. Anything they've asked me to do, it's never been a hardship for me, which I'm grateful for. So then I got to the conference, and it was fascinating. It was 3 days, and everybody said, well, what do you do with dolphins? I said, I don't really know exactly why I'm here yet, but I was told to come. So hopefully before the conference is over, I'm going to figure out why I was told to come here. And then the last day, Sunday morning, and I thought, I still don't know why I'm here. But there was a man that stood up, and he said, so I guess you all want to know why I called you here. And I thought, oh, he's the one. I didn't even know he was the one that put it together. I looked in his eyes, and I was pretty shocked because there was blank. It looked like he didn't even have a soul, this man. And I was just taken aback by him. But one of the people that were invited, this couple, were very wealthy. And they had nothing to do with dolphins either, but everybody got caught up in how human dolphins are and how you can communicate with them and all the stuff that they've done for humanity. And so he got up and he said, there is a man, I can't remember his name, he wrote a lot of books about dolphins. I read all the books. He had 2 dolphins, Rosie and John, and he was ready to move on to other things. And these dolphins were practically human. They communicated with him. They were together, the dolphins, all the time. And he said, they're for sale. So I'm hoping that we can all figure out a way to buy them. And all of a sudden I stood up. I said, wait a minute, I have a question. And I stood up And I thought, now I know why I'm here. I said to him, I have one question for you. What is your plan? If you get these dolphins, what are you going to do with them? And he said, oh, well, I'm going to separate them so they can't even see each other, and hook electrodes up to their heads and study their brains. I was mortified, and I said, okay, guys, you know I didn't know why I was invited to come, but I sure do now. And I gave the best speech I think I've ever given in my life, but it wasn't really me. What was coming, I was listening to what was coming out of my mouth, and it was just this passionate speech. But you cannot do that, that's inhumane. And finally, in conclusion, I said, look, you want to buy the dolphins, do that, but teach them how to take care of themselves in the wild, and let them be free, and let them bring other dolphins back if you want to study dolphins. And so the whole flavor of this conference changed, and everybody went, yeah, that's the thing to do. I'm surprised I'm not dead. If daggers could kill, I would be dead today, because that man was not happy with me. But everything shifted, and I thought, okay, I can leave now. I came to do what I came to do.
Wow.
And a few years later, I ran into this woman who was one that did acupuncture on dolphins. She had so many amazing stories. I ran into her at a conference, and I said, by the way, whatever happened? She said, oh, we did exactly what you said. We bought them, we trained them to go out in the wild, they brought other dolphins back, and they work with us with autistic children. And every time the children come, the dolphins know to come. And they've been healing all kinds of kids, and so I felt really good about that. So I've had so many of those kinds of journeys in my life where I didn't know exactly why, but figured it out when I got there.
Well, Stephanie, everything that you shared with us, you know, so many people in their lifetime right now are really working at becoming more than the body, connecting with parts of themselves or the divine creation that are beyond the physical. And as you share about the dolphins, how sacred when we hear that you have this knowing, this memory of your connection in more than your physical self to, and a part of you originating from Sirius, and how one of the root races of Sirius are the dolphins. And then in this lifetime, unbeknownst to you, why, the green light comes and you're called to go to this dolphin conference, and your ability to be open, your ability to move into that space, it's not even an ability, you as being open to more than body and mind was able to transmit a message that transformed and changed the minds and the intentions of many of the people who would have unknowingly supported something rather than nourishing and nurturing and honoring these sacred dolphin beings. You know, it would have actually harmed them and separated them and isolated them. And so I think that is just so gorgeous, the artistry of the spiritual and the material, how this origin that you carry, just like in this beautiful image of the dolphins here, you are also here to be that voice of the dolphins and change the reality for these two sacred beings that you mentioned.
When I lived in Laguna, I lived on the ocean, and I had a great big deck. And I would go out on my deck every morning. I slept out there most of the time anyway, but I would just get up and go like this and visualize the dolphins, and they would come. They always came.
Wow.
And here they come, and here they come, and here they come. So it's a beautiful relationship I have with dolphins, and even in goes back to Star Sirius as well.
Yeah, it's really profound. Many of these stories that you're sharing, and I want to take a moment to highlight something, which is that from the dolphin to the tree to the crystal, these are sources of divine consciousness, transmitters, receivers, reminders, attuners, and aligners of this divine consciousness, and how profound they, the tree, they, the dolphins, they, the crystals are, and how important it is for us to recognize that, to hear this incredible sharing that you're offering to us about your real experience, and this communications that changed and supported the trajectory of your life in a very beautiful way. And just to say how important it is that we also turn our attention to each of these things in the physical world, the trees and the dolphins and the crystals, and all of the other incredible emanators of the divine that are a part of creation, and really care for them, because they are doorways into spaces and places that without their presence we may not access like so easily or so instantaneously. Yeah. So it's, thank you for sharing these stories.
And humanity doesn't understand the consciousness that they are. Mm-hmm. It's not just a tree, but there's a beautiful ancient consciousness there. I found it in Boulder too when I moved there. I found a creek that I loved to go to, and I would just sit at the boulders, which was called Boulder. Yeah. But they had big boulders in this creek, and the water would flow down, and there were trees. There were younger trees, but on each side of the bank, and they would meet in the middle, and I loved it. And then they started talking to me, and I thought, oh, they're conscious, they're awake. How beautiful. Yeah. So
it's like we're returning to like our indigenous relatives and ancestors who know that the water speaks, that the stars speak, that the creek speaks, that the dolphins speak, that the trees speak, that the flowers speak, you know, that the sun speaks and the earth is a being. Like we're returning, you know, and to bring these messages of this to others.
It's all part of the oneness.
Yeah.
You know, we're all part of one.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're really all here to work with us.
Yeah.
And to help us. Mm-hmm. We just have to have ears to hear and eyes to see and consciousness to know.
Yeah.
And there's so much wisdom we can get.